Welcome back to the FIDE World Blitz 2024 quarterfinals, and it's Magnus Carlsen, the greatest player of all time, going up against a player that he previously accused of cheating, Niemann. And so these players, they are playing for their tournament life, but they are also playing for a lot of pride. And Hans, with the white pieces, he chooses to play the Italian opening. This opening is actually Hans's specialty. He climbed all the way to Super Grandmaster level with this opening. So let's see what kind of preparation he has cooked up. But Magnus Carlsen, he is no spring chicken. He is very familiar with these Italian lines. Everything that Hans has played so far is very typical for the Italian opening. He's played pawn to h3, which stops a piece from going to g4. And now he's played rook to e1. This supports his e4 pawn, as well as allows the knight to jump into the f1 square later in the game, and hop its way to g3. This is another typical Italian maneuver. In the meantime, Magnus, he's played the move pawn to a6, which is a bit of a rare move. But the point is that he's sliding his bishop back to a7 where it can be nice and safe. And so when d4 comes, striking in the center from white, his bishop will not be hit with the tempo. And now Hans, will he continue with this knight maneuver? Knight f1 to g3. And he does it. The knight is now looking at the square f5. And with the light squared bishops coming off the board and Magnus choosing to take on e6 with the rook, this f5 square could be up for grabs later in the game. And Hans, he senses that the moment is now. He plays pawn to d4. And his very not so subtle threat is to play pawn to d5. That would fork the knight on c6 as well as the rook on e6. So Magnus, he has a big decision to make. Now the obvious move is to slide the rook back all the way to e8. But he also has another option. He could play pawn to d5, stopping white from playing d5 himself, but that might allow mass liquidation in the center of the board. And that could lead to a very draw position where all the pieces are coming off. So Magnus, he decides to keep the tension and he slides the rook back. And now Hans, he takes on d4 with his bishop. But now Magnus has the option to take on d4 with his knight, and this will leave him with the only dark squared bishop on the board, which could be uncontested on this long diagonal in the future. Big decision for Magnus Carlsen. And while he is thinking about which piece he should take with, I just want to remind you that if you are enjoying the content so far, remember to subscribe and like and also leave a comment. You learn more when you actively engage in the content that you're consuming. And also it would help out the algorithm. So remember to comment. Thank you. Jumping back to the position, Magnus, he's deciding to take a very long thing here. He has now dipped down to under 2 minutes and he is almost down to a 1-minute time deficit. But he doesn't look concerned at the moment. Perhaps Magnus is getting excited about the opportunity in order to create the first real imbalance of the game. But he's not letting the emotions get to him. He is a professional player and he is carefully evaluating this trade. And he does decide to take with the knight. And now he plays c6 in order to blunt a rook. If the rook were to come to the semi-open c file and attack that c pawn, this does weaken the b7 pawn. And Hans, he immediately goes after it. Queen b3 is attacking b7. And so Magnus, he chooses to play the humble-looking move, rook to b8, defending the b7 pawn. And now Hunksy brings his last rook into the game. And just look at all white's pieces. Both rooks are supporting the central pawns. The queen is pointing towards this weak b7 pawn as well as the king. And the knights, they are also supporting the pawns, but getting ready to jump into this f5 square that we were talking about earlier. And so for Magnus, things are starting to look a little bit uncomfortable. He plays rook to e6. Perhaps trying to defend the d6 pawn prophylactically while also clearing space so that his pieces can double or even triple up along the semi-open e file. And now Hans played the move queen to c2, which helps defend the e4 pawn. Maybe preparing for black again to triple up his major pieces along the semi-open e-file. And Magnus, he's getting lower and lower on time. He has now dipped down to below a minute. Pawn. Still, with 2 minutes and 20 seconds on the clock, was definitely the easier position to play. Magnus plays the move pawn to g6. He's trying to keep these pesky knights out of f5, but this does weaken his king side. And now Hans immediately goes after it. Queen c1 is attacking the pawn on h6. And so Magnus, he has to defend this pawn. He plays king g7, defending the h6 pawn. And now Hans, what is he going to do? He has 2 minutes on the clock, but he's playing on Magnus time. He plays queen to f4. He's bringing the queen closer into the kingside position. But I think this is one of those moves that kind of just looks good, but I'm not sure if it actually is good. It's not doing anything concretely. And so Magnus, no real problems are being posed to him in this position. But the real problem is, what should he do while waiting? He plays queen to e7. And now Hunsi plays knight h4. The threat is actually knight f5, because after pawn takes, the other knight can take and there would have been a fork there. Magnus very quickly sees that trick and he steps out of the way. He was threatening g5, forking the queen and the knight there. And so Hans, he jumps back with the knight, knight to f3. And now Hans, he's played the move pawn to e5. But I think it was too rushed, because this allows the black 5-15 knight to jump into d5. He's hitting the queen. The queen is now forced to run away. And the opening of the positions will favor black because he has this